Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're doing every gamer's favorite thing, and that is putting together a brand new PC, or in my case, I'm collecting all of my old parts and just putting it together to make an extra PC for myself. So if this is the first time that you are ever putting together a computer, or you haven't done it in a while, very first stop on your little journey for this is going to be definitely pcpartpicker.com. It's a great website that helps you pick out different components and making sure that each of them match with each other and that there's not going to be any inconsistencies that might cost you a lot of money and a big headache. So I'll put that down in the link below. Make sure to go to PC Part Picker. And also before that, if you have the time, it's not really necessary, but I do suggest to do a little bit of research, write down your price range, the max amount that you want to spend on your PC, and also kind of think about what you want your PC to do. For example, if you're gaming on it, some components are better than others. If you're video editing, some components, if you want to run AI, but make sure to maybe go on Google and search up, or go on Reddit, wherever you want to go, or search up what's the best CPU for gaming, or what's the best CPU for using Adobe After Effects, or what's the best CPU that matches up with this, what's the best CPU at this price range. Just do a little bit of research before you start wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things can get really expensive. So just take a little. I know it's exciting, you want to get out there, you want to start putting stuff together, screwing things together, you want to start playing games, you want to start video editing, you want to do all this stuff. Just take a little step back, go to PC Part Picker, go to Reddit, go to Google, and make sure that everything is copacetic and everything matches up and you are not wasting your money. All right, guys, with that being said, we're going to get right into putting our PC together. All right, so first things first, we're just gonna go through all the components that we're gonna need, all the parts that we're gonna need, just a quick checklist to make sure that we have everything. Like I said before, these are all old parts that I have laying around, so the boxes don't match what's inside, okay? So like, for example, AMD Ryzen 9, there's an Intel i7 in here or something. This thing doesn't match. We'll just go through it as we go. So first things first, the only thing brand new that I did buy was this nice 1TB NVMe SSD right here for the storage. This is probably the only thing that would be completely different as far as components goes, because you guys might have like a regular SSD or just a hard drive, but we'll go over that also, just so you guys know. But it's not too hard. It's just a SATA power connector that's going to go into that. But 1TB NVMe SSD right here for the storage that I have, and right here is 2 8GB RAM sticks. These I actually bought back in like 2018 and I never opened up, and this is the first time I'm gonna be opening these things up, so hopefully these things still work. I mean, they've never been opened up, so they have, like, what could have happened to them, but they've only been in storage. And here we have our CPU. Like I said, it's not an AMD Ryzen, it's a Intel Core i7 9700X, no, 9700F, with of course a CPU cooler to match. We do not have a Pro B550. This is what I'm using on my current gaming setup. We have a TUF Gaming motherboard to match the Intel one right there, just so you guys can see. Of course, we have our power supply, which is an old one that I have. The box is obviously, of course, again, for the stuff that I have now. I just have my old one in here. And then everybody's favorites, the GPU. I have a 3060. No, I have a 1660 Ti, I think, in here. But it's gonna do exactly what we need it to do. This computer for me, it's not gonna be gaming, it's not gonna be video editing, because I have 2 of those already. This is actually gonna be for something else. It's gonna be a server that I'm gonna run, a Linux server that I'm gonna be running AI on. And then the very last thing, this bad boy right here. If you guys don't know what this is to stop any static electricity from messing up any of your components. It's a little wristband that you put on, and then you attach this side to your computer or any metal piece that you might have around. Just it's a ESD strap. Just stops your computer parts from getting messed up. And then the most important part, the case. This is an old case that I've got, and it will do the job. It will get the job done. Now I'm looking at it, I think I might be missing some screws here, but we should be good. All right, so we're here, and first things first, safety first. Put on your little ESD strap. You don't want to mess up any of your parts. These things can get pretty expensive, so just put it on, hook it up to probably a little bit farther. So on the other side, hook it up to any metal piece, and then you should be all copacetic. Then the only bad thing about these is you're kind of limited on your movement, but it's all good. Then you want to get out your motherboard. Oh, also a little beginner tip: if you guys are putting together like kind of a Frankenstein PC like me from a bunch of old parts, and you happen to be missing some screws for your case or anything, if you go on Amazon, you could find PC screws that 9 times out of 10 probably work. And if they don't, you can probably just buy another brand and you'll find screws that will fit wherever you need to go. So if you're missing screws, just go ahead and buy them off Amazon. They should fit. Most of these cases use the same size screws, so you should be all good. Now let's get on into it. First things first, so one thing I actually forgot is this little IO shield. It was in a different box that I had, but it's just to kind of organize everything, all the ports on the back of your motherboard. So this is gonna go right over here where it fits. Want to make sure that it pops into place copacetic, and that means we can go ahead and try to put our motherboard back on in here. So let's grab the motherboard, align the holes on the motherboard with the screws. A little bit of pushback, I think we're good on that. So let's go ahead and grab a screw again and get this baby going. We'll go ahead and start putting those screws in there. Don't tighten them up too tight, so you don't want to crack the motherboard or anything like that, but just nice and firm. Next up, we are going to be doing our CPU. So we're going to pull out the CPU and the cooler that I have in here. This one isn't that great, but I don't imagine that this thing is pretty dirty too. Whew. Let's see this. Look at that, man. I don't imagine that I'll be making this thing too hot. This thing has been used before, so if you are using stuff that's been used before, make sure to wipe away any excess thermal paste with some isopropyl alcohol and some Q-tips. So we've got our CPU right here. You want to look for the little triangle on Intel ones, which is right here. If you have an AMD CPU, you'll probably only have a little marker on the left, and you want to match that up with the little marker on the motherboard. So go ahead, and now for the next part, you get a little bit of thermal paste right here. If you have a brand new CPU, then you probably don't need thermal paste. It comes with it already on there. But if you're using an old one like me, or if you just want to apply a new set of thermal paste, a lot of people do, then all you need is a tiny dot, about that much, not too much. Now when we're putting our cooling system, and then you'll need a back plate for the motherboard. This is going to hold the cooling system in place. Not all of them look like this. Most of them have like a marble look to them, like a pretty hard marble look to them, but this is a cheap one that I got with this thing, so should be all good. To make this a little bit easier, I think we are going to, so now that we have our CPU on nice and firm, our next thing that we are putting on is actually the SSD. And our SSD actually, yeah, so if you're using an NVMe SSD, it usually has this shield that goes over it, and you'll probably have to take it off. And then you'll need one of the screws to hold it in place, so make sure to keep that around. So let's go ahead and take it out. This is what it looks like. You want to make sure that this notch matches up with the notch that's on there, kind of like anything else on this thing. So we're gonna go ahead and just flip it in there. It'll fit pretty flush. And then you just push it and just go ahead and screw that in there until the SSD stays flat. And you should be all good with the SSD right there. And then probably go ahead and save that other screw with the shield. Now that we have an SSD in there, next thing is going to be the RAM. Right here, this is brand new again, and just like everything else, we are matching up the notches right here with the notch on the PC. And for this, if you only have 2 RAM sticks, you're going to be using 2 and 4. And then if you have all 4, of course, put all 4, because the little switch on top should come down. And then go ahead and do the same thing for the next one. And those are firmly in there, and you should be well copacetic, man. Now, one of the last things that is going to be going in here is our graphics card. So let's go ahead and get that. Here we go. Go ahead and pull this 1660 Ti out of here. Make sure that you remove any shields that you might have over here so you fit. And then this, unless you got some weird setup going on, or you might have a capture card or something, this should definitely be going on. Ooh, dusty. On your first PCIe slot. All right, now that we are putting this thing in for the PCIe slot, the first one, or at least X16 slots, should have these little latches right here, just like your RAM sticks. Just go ahead and push those things down, and then you want to go ahead and line this bad boy up. You're gonna want to take a screw and screw it in so it's nice and firm, nice and tight. We're all good. It looks like we're all done, and that's about it for the computer parts you need, besides of course the power supply, which we're going to put in right now. But we have a CPU, RAM, SSD right there, and GPU. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. And of course the beautiful motherboard. Now that everything is in here, we're gonna stand this baby back up, turn it around, and we are gonna get the power supply in here. This is our power supply first. So for most of you guys, you'll probably won't have a power supply where it's connected directly into there. You'll have your own ports where you'll connect your power cables, but for this one we don't have that. This is gonna come with PCIe connector. This is for your GPU. This is gonna be your 24-pin connector for your motherboard. This one, another 4-pin connector for the fans, a SATA connector that I don't think I'll be using because I don't have a hard drive or another SSD. And then this one is another PCIe connector. Oh no, this is actually this is the power connector for the motherboard. So the power supply is gonna go right down here. Make sure you have the screws for them. I'm gonna have to go ahead and look for those. All right, our power supply is here. It's in there, it is connected. All right, now that our cables, our power supply is all good, our components are all in there, we are gonna start running the cables where they need to go and finishing up our PC build. So the big one, the 24-pin connector, is almost always gonna be in the middle, so just go ahead and pass that through to the middle, one of the middle holes that you have on your case. Now this is a 8-pin connector. This is going to be for your GPU, and that's going to be also kind of in the middle, but under the 24-pin connector. If you have a spot for that, put it there, or if you have a spot that comes from up under your case, I would put it there. But I don't have that. I just have that spot right there. So if you had a spot that went like right here, I have that in a different case that I have. This is going to be your SATA connectors. This is what's going to be going into either your SSD or your hard drives, and it would be paired with one of these. This side would go into your hard drive or SSD, and then this side will go into the motherboard. I'll show you where this goes, but I'm not going to be using this because I don't have a hard drive on this build, and so this is actually going to be not used. Next up, an 8-pin connector with a 4-pin connector just kind of off to the side. This is going to be at the top of your motherboard, and it's going to be the power to your motherboard, and you just want to run it somewhere to the top. The very last thing we have is for the fans, which we will do last as well. So now it comes to the case wires. This is going to be a USB 3.0 connector that is also going to be somewhere like in the middle, usually right next to your 24-pin connector, so you could probably run that to the same exact spots. You have more USB connections. These I usually put them on the bottom. This one's another case wire, so just run that probably same spot that you ran your 8-pin connector for your GPU. Also guys, it could be the case that you don't use all the wires, so you might just have to wrap them up and put them somewhere. Then we have our audio connector, which is usually all the way to the right of the motherboard right here. They should be labeled. This one says HD audio, so probably run that to the same spot as last time. These All these can probably ran to the same spot because these are going to be at the bottom of the motherboard that you ran the last wire. So let's go ahead and just put those through. And then we are left with this SATA connector that I'm not using. You probably are using this. I'm not using this. And then this will leave to the end. This is just going to be for the fans. So let's go ahead and flip our case back on its back and get this done. So very first thing we've got over here is a 24 pin connector to the only spot that has 24 connections. So just go ahead and put that in there. Push a little bit, not too hard. You don't want to crack anything. Oh, of course, the fan connection, the CPU fan is going to go to the CPU connector right over here. Just slide right in there. 24 pin connectors in there. Let's do all of our big ones. We've got up at the top corner the 8-pin connector, just so you can see it's going to be going right over here to that 8-pin port. Like I said, you don't need that 4-pin connection, so I like to keep that all the way in the back, not even pushing it through. But if you do need it, go ahead and bring it in. Now next is our GPU. You can use either one. You just have to make sure to put them together. Actually, no. Make sure to put these together. If you don't need to, you don't need to, but you can use either one, whichever you have the length for. Your nice little click there. And then our USB 3.0, which is usually next to our 24-pin connector. Now, USB connector, go ahead and look for the ones that match this. So we're looking at 5 on the bottom and then 4 on the top, or 4 on the bottom and 5 on the top. This is the audio. Go ahead and look. This is gonna be on my left, right? Always on the left. And these are the most annoying part of putting a PC together, because you have to figure out what goes where. I do recommend looking at your motherboard's manual to see, or you could probably just look it up online, to be honest. But 4 on top and 5 on bottom. And the very first one we're gonna do, let's see if I can find it here, HDD LED, and that is gonna be on the bottom. Go ahead and throw that there. And now power LED minus and plus. It's so much easier with some of the newer cases because these things just come together. Just make sure that these things line up correctly with the diagram. I'll probably put it up on the screen just to make it easier, because it's gonna be a little bit difficult to see in here. So the power LED positive is gonna go first, and it's actually over there. So the only thing we have left are the reset switch and the power switch right over here. So the power switch is going to go on top, the last 2 pins over there, and then the reset switch is going to go on the bottom. So like I mentioned before, if you guys are using a hard drive or SSD, you would need this second cable. This side would go into your hard drive or SSD, and then this would go right into one of these bad boys. And that is about it for all the cables that go directly into the motherboard or any component that it might go to. Make sure everything's nice and snug. This motherboard actually doesn't. All right, so the very last thing that we have back here, since we're not using the SATA cable, we're probably just gonna stuff this somewhere. All we have left is this fan cables. We don't actually have any 3 or 4 pin connectors on the motherboard for this, so we're just going to use the Molex connectors from the power supply and just daisy chain it, because then that way we probably will be able to do the best cable management. And this should be all good right here. So we've got a nice little power cable. We're gonna run this in here. I don't see any lights coming on, so I think we're actually all good. All the fans are on. Power motherboard looks like it's all good. Just to show you guys what I'm seeing on this side. So just so you guys know, motherboards usually have some error detecting lights that come on if something's going wrong. Everything is on. CPU's running, GPU's running, fans are going. No lights are over here, but everything looks like it's on. All the fans are going, the CPU's going, GPU's going. Everything is all good, so it looks like we are all good on this. I'm gonna do some cable management, get this thing looking nice, and then we are going to put on a Linux server on here, purely text-based, so no GUI, none of that. If you guys, I'll probably put up a video and putting Linux on here, so I'll catch you in that video, guys. But that is it for putting a PC together. If you guys made it this far, thanks for sticking around for the video. If you guys liked the video, you guys learned something, if it helped you out, hit that like button. And if you like technology based stuff, hit that sub, and we will catch you in the next one.